coming from Dame, unfortunately, we're in a situation where anytime that he talks, we kind of know the energy he's about to put forth.
Yeah, and but
he's not always wrong.
He's not always wrong.
He's more right than he's wrong.
Yeah. Let's talk about Dame Dash. You know Dame gonna find a way to pop up. I don't care if it's CEO brand, if it's his clothing, if it's Dusko Popping, he gonna find a way. Art galleries, Dame gonna find a way to stay relevant.
His he got to share them shares or sell them shares of Rockefeller. So,
like, my thing is, he's actually talking about Lyor Cohen.
He hates Lyor Cohen. So,
he does, but what I'm going to read to you, I want to see if you guys think he has a good point, because he's actually talking about him taking advantage of Young Thug while he's in jail.
Okay.
So, Dame has always been honest. He's always been upfront about Lyor. He's never like, dude, they've been beefing, or even if it's not a beef, he's just been roasting him pretty much forever as a vulture. But I'm going to read a couple things that he said as it relates to him and Thug, and then we can kind of go from there. He says the music industry only exists because of toxic behavior. They take advantage of the dysfunction in our culture. For me, I see a kid that's making music about the ish that's going to get him killed because he's really doing it. I don't think I'm putting their records out. I'm not going to enable that child, is what he's saying. This is relation, obviously, to
Young Thug.
Yeah, Thug and the type of music that people are putting out. Then he says, when I look at Young Thug, I'm like, Lyor and them just made a check, and he's going to jail. They made money off his music. So if they made money off that music, he's in jail for that. Then all of that money they made off the music should not go to them. How do they get all of that money and he's just sitting in a jail cell?
I mean, he didn't have to make the music if
he didn't want
them to release it.
The things he is alleged to have done.
But does he have a point?
No.
About the type of music that's actually put out?
Yeah, I mean, he probably should have thought about that when he signed that deal. Because if
you talking about Thug?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if he signed that deal and he still decides he wants to put music out, yes, somebody else is benefiting from it. But he's benefiting from it too, because he still has to pay attorney fees and things of that nature in order to keep this case ongoing or try to beat the case, essentially. So I don't really see fault with that.
Well, look, I'm going to expand a little bit more. He says, my beef with Lyor is because I think he's a fake CEO. And I think he's fronting on my culture, but he can't front on anybody else. I'm calling him out publicly, and I want him to stop trying to rape my culture. Go make some money.
He has historic beef with him, though, because he was working with Lyor, and he's upset the way that they was having meetings without him.
So I remember that part. We saw that part.
This is all something that's been transpiring for 20 plus years.
So what you're telling me is this is deeper than Thug. This is just accumulation from everything that's been going on with them over the years.
I mean, he's one of the first people that was using the term culture vulture.
Right.
So I can see him using Lyor as the example of that. But you were getting money with this man until you weren't getting money with him. Then it turned into all of that. So you should have felt that same way, in my personal opinion,
while you were
eating with him. I mean, everybody, if you've seen an interview or seen Lyor Cohen talk, he has snaky vibes about him anyway, in my personal opinion.
Sounds like a liar.
Right. But he had personal relationship with this dude, and he still has animosity, I think, towards him, is why he feels that way. But, I mean, I could be wrong.
So at the end of this segment here, or this article, it says, this is a 6-minute segment of Damon Dash talking. He says, a culture vulture is someone that exploits the culture that he's not a part of, doesn't benefit the culture, and takes care of his culture, and has no respect for the culture he's exploiting. He added, and that's why Lyor is one, because he's been making money off of our culture. He's not a part of it. He's been exploiting it, never helping, teaching, or anything, doing what's in the best interest of his own pocket over the culture. And to add insult to injury, he's not accepted in his own culture. He cannot get no money in his own culture, so he comes to ours, acts like a big cat, pretends we need him when we don't. So
we had people to put batteries in his back, though.
Well, look, this is the thing. If, as someone who, Lyor signs Young Thug to that whole situation, and you rhyme about people who are having an authentic experience, But the thing is it your fault that those people are still trying to live out that authentic experience? And then when they get caught and they're stuck in jail, is it your fault that you didn't tell them, hey, rhyme about sunshine and puppy dogs or something else? You know, you signed them because they come from a certain place that you saw that maybe there are people who relate to this. Now, me, I've never been a super big fan of Young Thug's music. Right. But clearly it resonated with a certain demographic. There are people who rhyme about the street all the time. Their music is about the street, but it's not in the street. Your music is about the street and it's still in the street. How is that Lyor Cohen's fault? Is he supposed to sit you down and say, okay, now make sure you're not associated with these people from the neighborhood who might be doing things that are detrimental to you? Everyone you know, to a certain extent, you got to let people have to take personal responsibility, because, you know, it's not like, oh, you didn't know some of these things were wrong. You didn't know there was a certain level of risk here. You know, so I don't see it. You can say, he eats off of our culture, this, that, and the third, and our dysfunction. But if there wasn't already dysfunction there, that's not, I'm not going to put that on record companies, you know, because everything about the record, going back to blues, going back to the first bit of recorded music, has always been exploitive.
Well, look, here's the thing, though. I think the conversation,
this is just personal
from Dame's part is, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but this one part is the part that sticks out to me, and it relates to the conscience in terms of the person that's the executive. He says, for me, I see a kid that's making music about it's just going to get him killed because he's really doing it. I don't think I'm putting their records out. I'm not going to enable that child. That's a conscious thing. If you say,
if you know that Lyor,
do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly. Okay, I know this kid is still in the street. I'm just going to put out his records anyway. I don't care what happens. Okay, but do you think that really Young Thug sat down with Lyor Cohen while they're going over the paperwork and they're doing whatever they can to put the music out? He's like, "Yep, I'm still out here involved with people who might be selling dope and killing people."
I mean, at the end of the day, and this is on a record label type of deal because it's a business.
Right.
They got insurance on him anyway. So it doesn't matter what he does, they're still going to get paid off of it.
That's fair.
But if Dame felt that, you know what I'm saying, passionate about Young Thug's situation, then maybe he should have had a conversation with him before he signed that deal with Lyor Cohen and tried to coax him to sign with somebody else if he doesn't want him to work with him.
But what I feel like Dame is saying is like, don't sign these kids at all. And it's like, okay, you're going to tell you who are you to say who I can and cannot sign based on your personal feelings about me?
Yeah, exactly, because it benefited you and Jay and Biggs at one point in time, and now since it didn't work out for him, now he's still bitter about it, essentially. And there's a lot of people that don't mess with Lyor, but in this particular situation, I got to play devil's advocate and kind of say, it's not really Lyor's fault.
Like what I say, if I was a CEO of a company, and you know, when I hear some of these things, would I be like, no, I'm not signing that, you know? But at the same time, when we always say, why does no one want to give these kids opportunity to maybe change their circumstances? But if you give someone an opportunity and they don't change their circumstances, and you know they've made enough money to separate themselves because you know they was out here getting it at one time, that's not the executive's fault. Nah. That's your fault.
Do you all remember the interview where
it's capitalism, but
thank you. So you remember the interview where Lyor was on the Breakfast Club and Charlamagne kind of jammed him up when he asked him if his kids listen to the type of music that he puts up, and he starts stuttering and fumbling his language and fumbling his answer. I think
that's the type of guy he is.
But what I'm saying is, I think that's what Dame is speaking to. On one hand, you pushing this.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong in that aspect.
So we agree on that. Okay,
but this is a personal vendetta against him.
And the people who run McDonald's don't let their kids eat McDonald's.
Yeah. Multiple things.
You know what I'm saying? The people who run Facebook don't let their kids get on social media.
I'm sure they do.
They probably do.
I mean, no, there's that's
probably monitored.
No, that's there was I can't remember what executive it was like. No, I don't let my kids. That's eat your brain. Like they literally,
that's probably true,
you know, and so.
But make sure you log on.
You know, so what's that goes back to capitalism. You know, it's like, what's good for you? I know it's not good for me. So
I'm not a fool. But record labels are put in place to make money. I'm not stupid, so I get it. But Dame, to Terry's point, it might be previous history and, you know, a culmination of a lot of stuff has been going on. But low key, he has a point as it relates to his approach to the culture. I'm 100% with him on that.
But he's always had that.
But would you tell? But is Dame's point? I wouldn't assign this kid because he's, you know, because I care.
I understand that.
You know,
I
what I'm saying, like I said,
I see where
I
you're going.
wouldn't. Like, it's the conversation kind of we had about said female rapper from St. Louis. Like I said, I don't want to talk too much about her.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, as much as I'm thinking this is somewhat destructive, I'm glad she, you know, maybe she can change her family's circumstances through this foolishness.
Which I'm sure she has.
And so when you talk about, oh, I wouldn't assign this kid, you know, we like I said, it goes back to like we say, oh, well, why don't people give, you know, these artists opportunities? Okay, we give the artists an opportunity and then they up.
Yeah.
And somehow that's my fault. Maybe we should give more resources to social workers and people who work in the community who could touch these, not touch, but you know what I'm saying, but who could reach out and make sure that these kids they see a different way.
Right,
okay,
right.
we can have that conversation. But if you're expecting people who run record labels to also want to manage people's lives, then you got another thing coming. All the drug addicts, all the people with serious mental issues who've come through every genre of music since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
You know, there's always somebody, well, why didn't somebody at the record company do something? That's not their job. And you have a higher expectation for them than you should. These people are here to make sure you get on that stage and
make that money.
You keep the content coming and you keep the money churning.
Mm-hmm.
And once you flame out or whatever, people are like, oh, why didn't they do something? That's not their job.
The job is
And
just
you
to
are-
find somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
And they will replace you the minute that everything goes south.
You know, so once
That's my point. This is all my point.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so like sometimes I think we have a higher expectation for people just because they're rich and they're powerful. We expect them to be somehow better than they are.
Yeah.
And it just isn't that.
Yeah. I don't expect record label owners to do any of this stuff because I know they're not going to because it's not in their best interest.
Right.
But the onus of all this, you know, when we talk about from the Dame angle, when Dame says, well, what, you know, the argument that you said about Dame, well, is Dame's perspective, then you shouldn't sign this person because blah, 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 right?
Mhm.
Right.
Maybe not. Maybe there's another way to help somebody or in a particular situation than to have them be a part of
A multinational record conglomerate.
Yeah. Maybe there's another way of that, and there is. But I don't know. I'm just taking it.
He's diverting a whole lot of blame from Young Thug in this situation too. Especially the quote when he's saying, "I'm not going to enable this child."
Yeah.
Let's put the ball back in his court because Young Thug is a grown man.
He's not.
He grown.
He's not a child.
He's grown.
He moves as a boss. He ran his label.
Oh.
He did what he was doing. He did the street stuff on the side too, or I don't know.
Allegedly.
It might have been major, allegedly, like you said. And he's in court for it now.
Yeah.
So he has to approach this as a man, not as a child. He is not facing time in the boys club or juvenile. This is prison time.
True.
And I remember, you know, Kevin Lyles at one point when it was Gunna's situation said, look, he said, I'll put up the money to bail him out and have him monitored, you know, and, you know, the judge wasn't going for it, you know, for, you know, whatever. There's a lot of mess going on in Atlanta right now. So, but I'm just saying is like, even when there are people, when they do take an interest, people are like, well, why would you do that? And when they don't take an interest, it's like, well, why would you do that? There's never going to be anybody that's happy with whatever it is that you do as far as these artists are concerned, especially when they've done something or have allegedly done something that has put themselves in a compromising position.
Yeah, I agree.
And the thing is, I know what Dame is doing. And like I said, I know it's personal when he says, you know, he's not of our culture. I think that's him trying to dig in. I don't know if it's the Jewish angle or the white angle, but it's like, you know, this dude has always been about hip hop.
You knew it. You've known it your whole life.
His first, you know, getting into the music game was, you know, throwing concerts with Run DMC. You know, so it's like, okay, to say he's not of our culture, I never like that because it's almost like there are people who say anytime you see somebody who's not black, they are not of our culture. Because the thing is, there are plenty of black people who are really not of our culture. They do the same thing that Lyor would do.
That's
the best thing I would say that in order to word it correctly would be they may not have the culture in their best interest, but they're a businessman. So in his interest, this is what makes sense, essentially, at the end of the day.
It's about the bottom line.
Yeah.
It goes back to my question from a few days ago. Can you truly be about a culture in capitalism?
You can't. Not when you monetize it in the way that he's presenting it.
So then, to that point, Dame is absolutely true about Lyor.
Well, he's
right.
been true about Lyor.
He's right.
Yeah,
But
then he
in the
has to be-
same token, he's wrong about Lyor.
well,
because,
multiple things are true. I'm just talking about that particular
Right,
aspect.
that
right?
piece
Yeah,
of it.
I agree with that from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that particular situation. But
Yeah.
you can't have these talking points about a young thug and not hold him responsible or hold his hand to the fire
Right.
when he's responsible for himself being in this situation.
Yeah,
I like your wordplay on the part about the child, because this is a grown ass man making grown ass man decisions. So you're right.
I can't remember which. Maybe it was Black Rob. He had passed away.
Yeah.
And people were like, "Oh well, Puff Daddy should have done more."
right.
And it's like, once again, his name is Puff Daddy. He's not your daddy.
Oh,
It's like even when DMX passed away, it was like we gave him a microphone, we gave him a stage. Should we maybe have got him a life coach or counseling?
yeah.
Maybe that should have been part of it, but that's not a record company's job.
It's not. And depending on who you're talking to, Puff Daddy may have been their daddy, allegedly.
Yeah. Shout out to no, I'm not even gonna say that.
Yeah,
Let's not
leave
do
that shout out
Let's not
alone,
do
bro.
that.
Leave that one
I'm not,
alone.
it's just too much paperwork out here. I'm not gonna get involved in that.
This is not a good time. This is not a good time.
I'm just talking at the end of the day.
I feel you. Yeah, leave that paperwork alone, J Moore. We ain't gonna do that.
No, I'm not. I don't need nobody calling up here. But
Yeah,
Dame
this
Dash don't like
conversation.
nobody. He don't like Kevin Lyles. He don't like LA and Babyface. See, I guarantee you ask him about any of these people,
He ain't gonna like
he
him.
ain't gonna like him. He ain't gonna like. He tell you everybody is. He don't like Steve Stout. He doesn't like anybody.
So it's almost coming from Dame. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where
The messenger.
anytime that he talks, we kind of know the energy he's about to put forth.
Yeah, and it gets.
But he's not always wrong.
He's not always
He's
wrong.
often he's more right.
He's more
than
right than he's wrong.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Long.
That's just what I was going to say. I was like, sometimes just the messenger isn't the right person to say something. And that actually doesn't speak anything to the person saying it. It just speaks to us because
How we digest it.
how we digest it and everything.
Yeah. Because honestly, I feel the same way about Lyor Cohen overall.
Right.
But just in this situation, I can't take the blame away from Young Thug.
No, it's his fault, and the record labels are going to make money off of it regardless, and they're going to make money off of it. So
True.
for Dame to kind of ignore that fact,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, okay, well, I mean,
And
sure,
you ran a
Lior's doing all these things, but
Yeah.
yes, the record company's going to do this to everybody, even the people that are making flower music.
Yeah.
And that plays to Terry's argument about the bias. Yeah. Because
You can't have
we
it
know
both
where it's
ways.
coming from.